Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast. Sam, it is a week before Christmas, well, in football terms. So we're going to have a look at an absolutely madcap run-in. We are going to focus up on the top four with this Christmas preview, but don't worry, I'm going to get Sam's take on a bit of a shock sacking at Oxford with Des Buckingham, who wants to see in at Millwall. And we're going to talk a little bit about QPR versus Preston in mouthwatering matchup. Sam, before we get to these 5 rounds in 17 days, as a player, is there almost a little bit of a sense that you can kind of check out and just let the madness take you? You know, you're basically going to play, warm down, play, warm down, play. How does it feel as a player going into this mad run?
I think it's hard on the body, and I think that recovery is the toughest kind of opponent that you face almost over the festive period. But I think it's still a time that players really look forward to. I certainly did, because going into training, you went in with a spring in your step because of everything that's going on externally. You're spending time with family, spending time with friends.
Quickly, Sam, just tell the viewers, when were your children born? Because I think they were born a bit later for you, whereas some of the players are not going to see much of their kids over this period, are they?
They're not, but I think having a family is quite a nice distraction anyway, away from the football. So I think, the players come in, and as soon as you get into the training ground, you're going to work hard. There's going to be a few little things around the edges. There's going to be a few mince pies, maybe a few celebrations doing the rounds, maybe someone in a silly hat, you know what I mean? Which I think enables you to have a slightly less stressful environment over Christmas. So I used to enjoy going in. I used to enjoy having a kickabout with my brother on Christmas Day, even before I was a professional. We used to get...
I bet you were in breach of your contract doing that, Sam.
Yeah, no, it was probably more on going and having a light jog. I remember doing that on Christmas Day when I wasn't in on a few occasions, when I've been instructed by a physio or by the fitness coach. That happens, if you're not going to be training Christmas Day, you'll get a little program to do at home. But yeah, I used to have a little kickabout with my brother every Christmas Day. So Brilliant. Training for me, I quite liked it. And generally you do your tactical work on Christmas Eve, because they'll have you in for a little bit longer on Christmas Eve, per se, if it's a Boxing Day fixture. Christmas Day, and I wasn't always fully on board. It's probably kind of the logistical side of it, how managers plan over Christmas. If things are going really well and you've got a manager who's got a really good group of players and there's the trust there, quite often you'd have Christmas Day off. If you'd got the work done on Christmas Eve and you can just meet for the game on Boxing Day. But some managers just like to have you in, and it was probably, I wouldn't say to keep an eye on you, but just to have your legs ticking over, to get a little bit of a sweat on. And normally that would be a 9 o'clock, 9:30 start on occasions, especially for the guys with family, so they could just get in, get it done and be home late morning. And that generally would be a 5-a-side or something like that, a small-sided game, a few little fun games, get a little bit of a sweat on and get home. So just to get the legs moving before the game. But then, that game used to come on the 28th, which used to be...
That's the one. The fans don't even like that one, I don't think, Sam.
No, and they tried to eradicate it in some cases, haven't they? I don't know if the Premier League... I know there's been some deviating away from that in the last few years, and teams playing on the 29th and the 30th. As well as New Year's Day, which I think is a positive, because I used to find it hard to, turn down all the grub and turn down all the booze, turn down all the desserts on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, and then obviously the 27th, and then the 28th, you're out there again. Yeah. So you're basically looking to unwind and have a little bit of a blowout on about the 4th of January when nobody has got any interest in leaving the house, spending any money, going to a restaurant. So that was one of the downsides, I think, because you have that kind of explosion after the festive period where you're like, wow, we've played 4 or 5 games, a really congested period. I haven't been able to socialise. It would be quite nice to leave the house now and have a few drinks. Yeah. You ain't got anyone to go with, unfortunately.
So the schedule this year, Sam, is pretty much as you've said, I think one thing they've done well is they have stuck all the championship games on a single day, so you don't get that drip sort of effect. So we get round 22 this weekend coming. Then you get your actual Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Then you get all 12 games on Boxing Day. Then you get all 12 games on the 29th. Then all 12 games on New Year's Day. And then you go to a normal weekend. So it's 5 rounds in 17 days, but it's going to be fewer days. We've gone right from the start point of Luton and Derby on the Friday right through. Let's have a look at the top 4, Sam, and the little 5-game block. I'll start off and I'll talk about Sunderland. By the way, really good week for Sunderland. I was a bit worried when they drew with Bristol City. I thought, it was just going to be a single win and then they drop off. But great comeback win over at Swansea. Sunderland, Sam, face Norwich at home. They go away to Blackburn, which is now very tricky. Stoke away, and then a really big one. I think it's the New Year's Day game, Sunderland versus Sheffield United. Pompey at home after that. So I don't much mind their fixtures. They're going to want to beat Sheffield United and they're going to want to not lose to Blackburn, and they'll target the other 3 games for victories, you'd think, against Pompey, Stoke and Norwich, struggling a little bit maybe with getting the first 11 out on the pitch. But I'm feeling a little bit more confident about Sunderland. I think there could be another reasonable run going. I'm going to get your take on Burnley, but you think Sunderland can beat Sheffield United on New Year's Day with a fair wind?
Quite possibly. I think that Sheffield United, who I'm going to come on to, are incredibly difficult to beat. I think, obviously, there's still that real lack of, probably a little bit of a lack of real potency and chemistry at the top end of the pitch, which I think is a frustration for supporters of a lot of the challenging clubs in the Championship currently. But yeah, I see it being a low margin game, and there's no reason as to why Sunderland couldn't feel like they may edge it with Sheffield United.
Sam, quickly, they're going to feel that having lost, it's one of these ones where they played in the middle of December. They're going to feel like having lost the game at Bramall Lane, that they need to win this one. And Sheffield United, conversely, will think, draw's okay here. Win at home, draw away against your rivals. Happy days.
Yeah, I was going to say that it might not be the worst time to play Sheffield United during a congested period when they've missed a couple of big players, Campbell, Sousa, I think, latterly, and they will probably look to improve maybe with a couple of players in January. I know that's an easy line to throw out, but I do think genuinely that Sheffield United might just bolster and might need that boost to get them where they want to be. Sunderland, obviously, I really fancied Swansea the other day, and obviously they raced into a lead, but that is a huge win for Sunderland, and it seems to have really raised the good feeling up there after such a brilliant comeback. And Bellingham, I think we spoke about him about a month ago being, a really big miss for them when he wasn't available. So that was a pretty big moment for his career, and I think Sunderland's season, Bellingham's season, sorry, a real standout result. And I would anticipate them kicking on now from there and becoming, even more competitive than they have been since the start of the season. I still think, an automatic position is maybe out of reach, but I think, that could be a kickstart to them doing what they were doing in the early weeks of the season.
Right, talk to me about Burnley then, because I think we're all still a little bit confused about Burnley, and you can probably wind back to early episodes in the season of the pod and us talking about Scott Parker saying, well, they won't be far away, but there'll still be unconvincing signs, and it feels a bit like that. Great win over at Norwich, and we talked about the defence. The keeper really looks like he's at it now, Trafford in goal. So Burnley face, listen to these first 3, Sam. Watford at home. You'd rather play Watford at home than away, of course. Sheffield United away, oof. Borough away, Stoke at home, and Blackburn away. They've really got to win those home games, Sam, haven't they? With some difficult away games, Burnley.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot has changed. I haven't seen Burnley live for a while, but I would like to sit down and watch them and see exactly what's going on. I think similarly to Sheffield United, they've missed, I think, probably Foster and Ramsey, players that can come back and I think probably impact that front line. I still think that it's a little underwhelming. Koleosho, Sarmiento, Anthony. When you think that Josh Brownhill is far and away the top goal scorer with 7 goals, I think 2 assists. I think his goals have been worth 6 points, mainly in the early part of the season. 6 additional points, sorry. That's probably not a pattern that you would have envisaged going into the campaign. So I was going to say they need to improve there. I'm not sure they do because this is just so unprecedented.
Rarely lose, Sam. Rarely lose.
Yeah, the defensive stability. I mean, I just noted this morning they've lost. Sorry, they've obviously lost twice at Sunderland, which can happen. And I think that happened during a period where there was loads of uncertainty about a lot of the players' future. It reminded me a little bit of, if you rewind a year when we didn't know what the relegated sides squads were going to look like in essence. And there was a lot of juggling going on. And I think that was the case with Scott Parker. He looked a little bit like the rabbit in the headlights after that defeat. And they lost at Millwall, which shows you...
In a midweeker as well.
Yeah, which just shows you in one result how unfortunate Neil Harris is to be seeking new employment now, whether it was his decision or a mutual one. You catch my drift because Burnley have been incredibly difficult to beat.
It was a Sunday. The comments will be all over me. It wasn't midweek. My bad. Carry on, Sam.
The only thing I was going to say, that they've only conceded more than 1 goal in 1 game this season, Burnley, at Wolves in the League Cup. So, they are incredible defensively. They've lost 1 in 18 at Millwall. So, that combination, I think, Egan, Riley and Estev, and good players in reserve to come in there. And I think you're bang on to highlight the goalkeeper as well, who was probably a little bit more overworked at Norwich recently in that victory. Fleming would be great, wouldn't he, to get a bit of a run and probably give them a little bit more of that creativity. He's a bit of a maverick, Fleming. I mean, that was some goal that he scored at Norwich. So I'd like to see him utilised a little bit more, and maybe when you get Ramsey and you get the aforementioned Foster back in, they could improve. But I think the reality is they seem that they're going to be there for the long term, and they're probably not going to change too much. But at the moment they're looking like, it's going to be a season where the fans aren't going to be wowed, but Parker looks like he's going to get them to where they want to be.
Like he always does, doesn't he? Yeah, get in the comments, Sunderland fans, Burnley fans, let us know your thoughts on the Christmas period. If I am a Leeds United fan, Sam, and I'm comparing up all the fixtures, I probably like Leeds fixtures the most. So they face Oxford at home. We're going to go on and talk about Oxford, but that feels like a nice opponent at the moment, given that we've just had a bit of a shock managerial sacking. We'll talk about that in a minute. Leeds go to Stoke and they go to Derby. I know on their day they can be difficult away games, but given what Leeds have got in the dugout and in the squad, you'd think they'd fancy that. Blackburn at home. I know all the Leeds fans are going to go, "Oh, not John Eustace again," because he seems to just have something against Daniel Farker and tends to beat him, doesn't he? But then Hull away, and if you're looking at a 5-game block and you want 10 points in a promotion race, I think Leeds can do that. And you've mentioned, I think last week, that they've probably been at their weakest in terms of squad availability, and look where they are, and look what it's taken Sheffield United to do to actually be above them. So were I a Leeds fan, I'd probably be looking at all 4, given we're going to go on and you're going to talk about some hard games for Sheffield United, and thinking Leeds have got a chance of being top at the end of this. But talk to me about Sheffield United just staggering. Sam, at home, not only is it 9 wins in a row, it's 9 clean sheets with Mike Cooper in goal. But this is difficult. They go away to Cardiff, and then this is on the back end after Christmas Day. It's Burnley home, West Brom home, Sunderland away, Watford away. I think Sheffield United have the hardest games. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think they're probably playing Cardiff at a reasonably good time,
Agreed.
given injuries there. I think a little bit of a change in system in the last game. And for Omar Ritza, the players that he'd reinvigorated during the early part of his tenure all of a sudden aren't in the team. So I think he's scratching around a little bit. And given the way that he started, this has been a steady decline in the last few weeks. So I think this is a pretty good game for them to get up and running. And then they've got obviously some real tight games you would envisage against Burnley, West Bromwich Albion,
Low
Sunderland as well.
scoring.
Yeah, I think low scoring. I think, Watford after that incredible victory at Hillsborough have just kind of shut up shop and all of a sudden a really good defensive unit. There's not a lot of goals in their games. So it's hard to envisage other than this weekend against Cardiff where they're going to fill their boots, if you like, Sheffield United. And I think that is a problem. I think still, I've looked at it and felt that at times players have been shoehorned into positions that maybe they'd ordinarily like to be playing somewhere else or slightly more central or on the opposite side. And Chris Wilde has done his best to get his pieces into the puzzle. But Campbell a miss, absolutely. What missed the last two now? He was the one, wasn't he? That was looking like he was going to be incredibly productive. Sousa as well. Ahmed Hodzic hasn't returned yet after, I think, the red card at Coventry. So in his absence, I think Robinson has filled in really well to keep this incredible run of clean sheets going and that defensive stability. But yeah, I remember early part of the season after about half a dozen games, the United fans saying, look, we've had one bad half of football this season. It was when they conceded the 2 against QPR, and they haven't conceded since that day, since Michael Cooper came into the goal. So it is incredible. Can they continue in this mould away from home? There's been a few drop points, hasn't there? And they weren't brilliant at Millwall, but they're ticking along fine, aren't they, on the road as well? Like Burnley, I don't think, the fans would tell you that it's a brilliant spectacle, but does it need to be?
No.
Does it need to be? And I think there are occasions when they have played some good stuff. Probably it's not comparable to maybe the excitement levels at Turf Moor. I think the punters at Bramall Lane have had better entertainment, but not maybe to the level that they're used to. And I think Chris Wilder will probably still get a little bit of criticism. Well, we could be doing this better, we could do that better, but they're winning games of football and they're brilliantly positioned after what looked like in the summer. It could be a bit of a toss of a coin what Sheffield United you were going to get. So it's been a terrific first half of the season. And I think, everyone needs to remember that they put themselves in a brilliant position.
Yeah, what a good point as well, Sam, because it is round 23. We normally get there before Christmas, but we're going to get there a day after Christmas this year. Round 23 will be on Boxing Day. Get your thoughts in the comments. It looks fascinating with the fixtures. I'll colour or nail my colours to the mast. I like the Leeds fixtures, but they do have to go away 3 times with only 2 home games. But look, get in the comments. Are we going to see another Sunderland trend up? Can Burnley get through difficult games? Are you as confused as us sort of about Burnley and Parker? Can Leeds leverage the away fixtures particularly, and can they get past John Eustace? And can Sheffield United, given they've put themselves in such a good position, stay on top? Get in the comments on all of that. Sam, were you as surprised as me about the sacking of Des Buckingham at Oxford? Because we were chatting September, October time. Who's doing the best job in the Championship, pound for pound, when you look at league position vs resources? He was at the top of the conversation. Sam, it's always difficult, and I would bow to the superior knowledge of people like yourself and Oxford fans, frankly, when you look from the outside and your immediate sympathetic responses, oh, that's bloody harsh after a pretty miraculous and brilliant promotion last season, but they've been in terrible, terrible form. Which side of the scales are you on this one with Des Buckingham? And this is harsh and he needed more time, or the results said he had to go?
I think incredibly surprised. Yeah, I think, a lot goes into kind of my thinking here, and big part of it is probably, his background, so tied in the history of Oxford United across the last decade and a bit. I would suggest maybe longer. I think he worked with Chris Wilder during his tenure at Oxford. So Des Buckingham is a local boy who got an opportunity to come back and manage after being in India, I think he was. And last season, the back end, nobody would have seen that coming. I thought they were brilliant. I think tactically he was brilliant. And I think the start of this season, even Coventry on the opening night, I think it was, or maybe the opening couple of games. Yeah, it was the second game, wasn't it? Won the first against Norwich and then went to Coventry, played some brilliant football, got done by, it was a loose back pass, wasn't it? But yeah, they looked like they were taking to the Championship so comfortably. So I'm really surprised that it's gone so downhill. And I think how abject they were at QPR has obviously added to this, and also in defeat against Sheffield Wednesday. And if I can just lighten the mood somewhat, I've got a very dear friend who didn't long move to Oxford, Tottenham fan, but he said he was going to go and take in an Oxford United game. So obviously with my Swindon ties, I said, mate, you can't do that. You can't go to Oxford United. If they know we're pals, you'll get chased out of there. Well, anyway, he's turned up. They've lost 3-1 at home, and he's seen a manager off. So there you go. So maybe it is my fault somewhere along the line.
Familiar name here, top of the betting though, and Gary Rowett could be exactly the sort of manager they want going in there, because you know exactly what he's going to do. Those L's, they might not turn into W's, but they'll certainly disappear quickly if Gary Rowett goes in there. Let me just fire some other names on the betting. John Terry, Mark Robbins, Paddy McCarthy on the staff there. I don't know why he's been linked.
Paddy McCarthy,
where
Palace, no?
Palace. I don't know.
Palace legend, isn't he? But he's certainly been on the staff at Palace. I'm not sure if he's currently there, yeah.
Stephen Schumacher, Russ Martin, Ryan Lowe, Matt Bloomfield, Neil Harris. Who do you like there?
Yeah, I suppose just to round off what I was saying, I think
Sorry.
there has been certain mitigating circumstances as well. Obviously, the replaced Murphy with Dembele, and he's not been available. Harris obviously had that incredible start to the season, which is just plateaued, lost his way to a degree. And I think there's been one or two other injuries with players brought in. I think Brannigan missed the chunk as well, because I remember someone, we spoke about him relatively recently when we were doing one of the specials. Maybe it was when we were taking one player from each team. I can't remember which week it was, but we mentioned Brannigan about how he's still the fulcrum for Oxford. And obviously, I think he's probably been missed in terms of the amount of points they could accrue early part of the season. So I think he's been a little bit hard done by in certain elements, but still really surprised. I think it would have been nice for them to come out and back him and hope that would have been a little bit of steady improvement, even if it ended in relegation. Is that a disaster? Obviously, when you get there, you want to try and desperately stay there to make sure that the club is safeguarded, and financially you can have a real encouraging and rosy outlook for the future. But life's not always that kind, and Oxford are punching above their weight to be in the Championship. So yeah, sorry to see him go. In terms of who next, I don't know exactly what the blueprint is in terms of what they're looking to achieve, Oxford. But I would suggest
I think you just nailed it, mate. Just stay in the damn division.
Well, if it's that, then yeah. I mean, it feels like Gary should have played for Oxford, and I should know this.
It's because he wears the Cambridge colours, yeah.
Well, no, Gary Rowett. This is he played for Derby, he played for Leicester, didn't he? Famously, though, probably there's his two clubs, but feels like he should have played for Oxford. I'll check it in a minute. I really like Gary, and obviously, defensively, he'd stabilise them. He'd give them a good chance of staying in the division, wouldn't he? I suppose Birmingham last year, it was too little too late when he went in there to give a helping hand, but I'd be confident that he could go in and get an upturn. But like I was just saying there, is it now a kind of blueprint, a model which wants a newer manager, someone like a Bloomfield of that ilk? Schumacher, I'm not sure Schumacher would want to walk into a job despite it being a Championship club currently with the prospect of having a relegation battle. I think that's quite a dangerous position for a relatively young, recent manager, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Gary Rowett, if he is interested and he's in the reckoning, I would say has got less to lose because he's really established and has been very successful previously. So I think it's more of a gamble for someone like Schumacher. So we'll wait and see. Bloomfield would be an easy jaunt up the M40, and I think there is a Wycombe link somewhere in the decision-making department or football specialised area or whatever you call it now at Oxford. But I would be very surprised if that was a move that Bloomfield would make now. I think it would have to be something, and with respect to Oxford, it would have to be something, I think, kind of life-changing, as it probably was for someone like Schumacher to move to Stoke. It's going to have to be a huge...
Bloomfield to move from Colchester to Wycombe, for example.
Well, I just think it's going to have to be a big bump in salary. It's going to have to go to a club where he could see himself challenging in the top half of the Championship. He's top of League One now. He's getting loads of plaudits. The natural jobs that Matt Bloomfield will get linked with will be big clubs in League One, or clubs probably middle of the road in the Championship if people want to take a bit of a punt on him. So I think taking the Oxford job now would be a bit of a gamble for him as well. But it's a volatile career, and I'm not ever really in a habit of judging people because you've got to go when you're hot, as you did when you were a player, when the goals were going in and you got the opportunity to move on. Sentiment quite often went out of the window. But I just to finish off, I do think Matt is probably really strongly attached to Wycombe. And I tried to articulate this last night when I was doing some radio work. Not that they're similar in kind of support or location, history, but there are similarities between Wycombe and Millwall. I was trying to get this across last night in that I think you have to be a certain type. You have to know about the club to play for Millwall anyway, and you have to have thick skin, and you have to play the underdog at times, I think, to upset the odds. And I think at Wycombe, there is still that underdog spirit inherently in the DNA there. And I think it's there with the ground. They were in the non-league, 30 years ago, Martin O'Neill. And, when I was there 20 years ago, you could still feel that kind of non-league ethos running through the club at times. And I think Matt Bloomfield was big on making sure that the characters know that this is a place where you have to still roll up your sleeves, despite trying to probably play a little bit more possession football and trying to evolve the style from what they were under Gareth Ainsworth. I think that he still knocks it into the players that you've got to fight and you've got to be the underdog and you've got to make it difficult coming to Adams Park for the opposition. So I suppose what I'm getting at is I think it would have to, well, it wouldn't have to, but I think if a lot of those kind of ingredients aligned at a club, then maybe Matt Bloomfield would see it slightly more attractive. So that's why I think and you're going to speak about Millwall now, I think in a way that, I could maybe see that being a slightly better fit. And I know that sounds quite outlandish coming out of my mouth this morning, but yeah, I can see the attraction to Matt Bloomfield with Millwall, considering the Joe Edwards thing didn't work. They want a head coach.
It's a nice halfway house, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think if they're still dead set on trying to change things quite vastly, I can understand the attraction there. I'll shut up now, but just to finish, but I was speaking to someone last night and they were saying he feels that Millwall may, break the bank a little bit and go for someone slightly more established to give them obviously a better chance of being successful in the short term, which changed my outlook a little bit. But yeah, I think Bloomfield would probably find the the Millwall job's slightly more attractive if there is indeed any interest there.
Interesting. I'll move us on, but just at the moment, Southampton, Wolves available in the Premier League, Oxford, Millwall. There's Bristol Rovers and Northampton, so there is a load of jobs all available all at the same time. We'll see what transpires. I'll quickly just go through. We've got mouthwatering matchup down as QPR versus Preston, and we've just got it pegged as two teams that are kind of improving, having struggled down at the bottom, both pulling away, both in decent form. So keep your eye on that one at the weekend. Sam, I only have you for a limited time today, so I'm going to move on to the quiz with our man Fev, Fev's Football Analytics. Give him a follow. It's Christmas, for God's sake. A nice, easy one for Sam this week, it says. So you can answer first then, Sam. Can you name the 6 teams with the highest total XG in the Championship this season? So remember, it's 6 of the best. What do we always give you? Do we give you 4? We give you 4 guesses, don't we? And can you get 3 is the question. Yeah. So
you want the highest XG,
the highest total X, so not per game, total. Although it would be the same thing, but
yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure I would have looked at that in the last 48 hours, but I'll
amazing.
I'll go completely blank here. Highest XG in the division. Okay. Let's go straight in with Leeds.
Leeds are top. Are you going to give me them in order?
I'll have a go. Leeds at the top. I'll go Middlesbrough.
I would have thought Middlesbrough were top actually, but they're second. Yeah, you're right. You're doing an order.
Right,
well
okay.
Done. 2 for 2.
Not them. Oh, blimey. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy considering Sam. The conversation we've been having this morning. I'll go in with... Oh, it's tricky. I'll go with Sheffield United maybe in 6th.
Sheffield United are not there,
no.
Sam. So you've got 3 more guesses. You only need to get 1 more right, though.
Norwich,
yeah, good shout. Yeah, even though Borja Sainz has scored about 12 goals from about 1 XG, hasn't he? Norwich are actually 3rd, so you've got your point for today.
Lovely.
But can you ram home the supremacy here?
Trying to think anyone that I mean, Millwall, I would have been there early, but they've regressed, so I'm not going to go for them.
Okay.
I will go for Watford.
Great shout. Watford are 6th in there. You have got 1 more guess and 2 more potential answers that you haven't got already.
What about Cov dropping down?
You're going to butcher me today, aren't you? Goodness me. Coventry are in there. Yeah, Coventry made a lot of chances. Luton were your other name, who have obviously made a lot of chances.
No, it was good to swerve. I swerved Burnley and Blackburn were the 2 that, I kind of... And West Brom, I didn't go down that route. So
in the words of the great Chris Tarrant, it's easy when you know the answers. So when you say that afterwards, I'm like, oh yeah, of course you should have done that. But I'm not sure I would have got that myself. What's my question, Sam?
Well, I did better than I anticipated there. Chuff with it. Can you name the 6 teams with the highest total XG conceded this season?
So the most open team, surely Plymouth after that early couple of games.
Yeah, they are top or bottom of the charts, whichever way you look at it. Yeah. So they got the highest with 30, 40, give or take. 38.2.
Pompey have had a couple of horror shows, haven't they? A 6 and a 4. So I'll go Pompey.
Not there.
Wow. Apologies, Pompey. Had you all pegged wrong. We've just been talking about Oxford then. What about Oxford?
Oxford are there. They are, 3rd worst. 33.5.
I know Hull are bottom, but did they actually concede a load of chances? Hull, just because they're bottom.
Hull are there. Yeah, they are tucked in just below Oxford. So they're the 4th worst.
So I've got my 3. Who are the other 3? Sam? Put me out of my misery.
Stoke are the 2nd worst. 2nd highest XG conceded, 37.5-ish. And then you've got not so bad Sheffield Wednesday.
Really?
Yeah, they are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. and 6th worst is Watford, who are
So Watford were in both lists.
Watford are in both lists, indeed.
Amazing scenes. There you go. Thank you, Fev, and thank you, Sam, for joining me. Now, you may not see Sam on the check-in podcast until the new year, in all honesty, but we'll try and get some predictions out for you at some point. We might have to go double bubble and predict rounds of games that are 5 weeks ahead. But Sam, thank you for all of your work on the Championship Check-in podcast across 2024, and have a lovely, lovely Christmas, my friend.
Thank you, mate. You enjoy yourself, and thanks everyone for continuing to watch and comment, and enjoy the football, enjoy your mince pies, and see you in the new year for the next probably lengthy Championship check-in chat.